It's been a long wait, but we could sure use some good news, and it looks like that's what we're getting. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam. I've been living with multiple sclerosis for nearly 41 years. And that may seem like a long time, but I'll tell you, it seems like an even longer time. We've been tracking some of these medicines that are going through clinical trials. They're supposed to be so wonderful, but we never know when we're going to get a chance to find out. Well, we have moved a big step closer with Fenebrutinib passing its phase 3 clinical trials with flying colors. And I don't want to blather on too long. I want to go ahead and read you the press release, so let's get started. Here's the press release from Roche. It says that Roche's Fenebrutinib shows unprecedented positive phase 3 results as the potential first and only BTK inhibitor in both relapsing and primary progressive multiple sclerosis. This was published on November 9th of 2025. And here are the summary points. The first, FENhance 2, of 2 pivotal relapsing MS studies, met its primary endpoint, showing investigational Fenebrutinib significantly reduced relapses compared to teriflunomide. In a pivotal primary progressive MS study, Fentrepid, Fenebrutinib slowed disability progression at least as effectively as Ocrevus, the only approved therapy in progressive MS. Full data from both studies will be shared at upcoming medical meetings once the second relapsing MS study, FENhance 1, has read out, which is expected in the first half of 2026. All data together will be considered for submission to regulatory authorities. And this is the press release text itself. Basel, 10 November 2025. Roche announced today that the first phase 3 FENhance 2 of 2 pivotal similarly designed phase 3 studies, FENhance 1 and 2, in patients with relapsing multiple sclerosis met its primary endpoint. Fenebrutinib, an investigational Bruton's tyrosine kinase inhibitor, significantly reduced the annualized relapse rate compared to teriflunomide over a period of at least 96 weeks of treatment. Additionally, the phase 3 Fentrepid pivotal study evaluating Fenebrutinib compared with Ocrevus or ocrelizumab in patients with primary progressive multiple sclerosis met its primary endpoint. The results showed that Fenebrutinib was non-inferior compared to ocrelizumab, the only approved therapy in primary progressive MS, as measured by a delay in the onset of composite confirmed disability progression over a period of at least 120 weeks of treatment. A numerical benefit for Fenebrutinib compared to ocrelizumab was seen as early as week 24 and lasted throughout the observation period. This sounds very unequivocal and very, very positive. Fenebrutinib substantially reduced the number of relapses in relapsing MS and slowed disability progression in primary progressive MS. These unprecedented results suggest that Fenebrutinib could potentially become a best-in-disease medicine as the first high-efficacy oral treatment for people with relapsing or primary progressive MS, said Levi Garraway, MD, PhD, Roche's Chief Medical Officer and Head of Global Product Development. Therefore, these pivotal results for Fenebrutinib may offer new hope for people living with MS, and they reaffirm our enduring commitment to the MS community. Liver safety was consistent with previous Fenebrutinib studies. Additional safety data is being further evaluated. The results of the second relapsing MS phase 3 trial, FENhance 1, are expected by the first half of 2026. Fenebrutinib targets cells in the immune system known as B cells and microglia. Targeting B cells helps control the acute inflammation that causes relapses, while targeting microglia inside the brain, addresses the chronic damage that is thought to drive long-term disability progression. Fenebrutinib, a non-covalent BTKI, is designed to have high-potency selectivity and reversibility. This design allows it to act throughout the body and also to cross the blood-brain barrier into the central nervous system, targeting chronic inflammation. And by the way, I apologize, my husband is running the air compressor right now, so if that's interfering with your enjoyment of this article, I do apologize. About the FENhance 1 and 2 studies. FENhance 1 and 2 are similarly designed phase 3 multi-center randomized double-blind double-dummy, whatever that is, my goodness, parallel group studies to evaluate the efficacy and safety of investigational fenebrutinib compared with teriflunomide in a total of 1,497 adult patients with relapsing MS. This is a large study, and it's also a pretty long-term study, so I really appreciate that. The data is a lot more trustworthy because of that. Eligible participants were randomized 1-to-1 to receive treatment with either oral fenebrutinib twice a day and placebo matched to oral teriflunomide once a day, or oral teriflunomide once a day and placebo matched to oral fenebrutinib twice a day for at least 96 weeks. That's a goodly long time. The primary endpoint is annualized relapse rate. Key secondary endpoints include the time to onset of composite 24-week confirmed disability progression, or CDP-24, 12-week confirmed disability progression, CDP-12, and 24-week confirmed disability progression, CDP-24. Following the double-blind treatment period, patients have the option to enter an open-label extension phase in which all patients receive treatment with fenebrutinib. Fentrepid is a phase 3 multi-center randomized double-blind double-dummy parallel group study to evaluate the efficacy and safety of fenebrutinib compared with Ocrevus in 985 adult patients with primary progressive MS. Eligible patients were randomized 1-to-1 to receive treatment with either daily oral fenebrutinib and placebo matched to intravenous Ocrevus, or IV Ocrevus and placebo matched to oral fenebrutinib for at least 120 weeks. The primary endpoint is the time to onset of 12-week composite confirmed disability progression, CCDP-12. The CCDP incorporates 3 measures of disability: total functional disability measured by the Expanded Disability Status Scale, or EDSS, walking speed measured by the timed 25-foot walk, and upper limb function measured by the 9-hole peg test. This comprehensive composite endpoint offers greater sensitivity than the EDSS alone, capturing additional aspects of disability, and often earlier. Key secondary endpoints include the time to onset of 24-week composite confirmed disability progression, or CCDP-24, 12-week confirmed disability progression, or CDP-12, and 24-week confirmed disability progression, CDP-24. Following the double-blind treatment period, patients have the option to enter an open-label extension phase in which all patients receive treatment with fenebrutinib. And then they have a section about fenebrutinib. Fenebrutinib is an investigational oral central nervous system, or CNS penetrant, reversible, and non-covalent Bruton's tyrosine kinase inhibitor, or BTKI, with an optimized pharmacokinetics PK profile. Fenebrutinib has been shown to be 130 times more selective for BTK versus other kinases. Fenebrutinib is an inhibitor of both B-cell and microglia activation. This dual inhibition may be able to reduce both multiple sclerosis disease activity and disability progression thereby potentially addressing the key unmet medical need of disability progression in people living with multiple sclerosis and providing comprehensive multiple sclerosis care. The Fenebrutinib Phase 3 program includes 2 similarly designed trials in relapsing multiple sclerosis, and FENHANCE 1 and 2, with active comparator teriflunomide, and the only trial in primary progressive multiple sclerosis, FENtrepid, in which a BTK inhibitor is being evaluated against Ocrevus. And then here's some information about Ocrevus, or ocrelizumab. Ocrevus is a humanized monoclonal antibody designed to target CD20 positive B cells, a specific type of immune cell thought to be a key contributor to myelin, nerve cell insulation and support, and axonal nerve cell damage. Ocrevus IV and Ocrevus subcutaneous, Ocrevus Zunovo, ocrelizumab hyaluronidase OCSQ in the U.S., are the only therapies approved for both relapsing MS, including relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, and active secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, as well as clinically isolated syndrome in the United States, and primary progressive multiple sclerosis. Both Ocrevus IV and subcutaneous are administered every 6 months. The initial intravenous dose is given as 2 300 milligram infusions 2 weeks apart, with subsequent doses given as single 600 milligram infusions. Ocrevus subcutaneous is given as a single 920 milligram subcutaneous injection every 6 months. And then they just have some general information here about multiple sclerosis, and we don't need to necessarily go into this. If you want to read it, I will have linked the press release below. You can do that. But let's just see what they say about Roche in neuroscience. Neuroscience is a major focus of research and development at Roche. Our goal is to pursue groundbreaking science to develop new treatments that help improve the lives of people with chronic and potentially devastating diseases. Roche is investigating more than a dozen medicines for neurological disorders, including multiple sclerosis, spinal muscular atrophy, neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder, Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's disease, Parkinson's disease, and Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Together with our partners, we are committed to pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding to solve some of the most difficult challenges in neuroscience today. And here's just a little information about Roche. Founded in 1896 in Basel, Switzerland, as one of the first industrial manufacturers of branded medicines, Roche has grown into the world's largest biotechnology company and the global leader in vitro diagnostics. The company pursues scientific excellence to discover and develop medicines and diagnostics for improving and saving the lives of people around the world. We are a pioneer in personalized healthcare and want to further transform how healthcare is delivered to have an even greater impact. To provide the best care for each person, we partner with many stakeholders and combine our strengths in diagnostics and pharma with data insights from clinical practice. For over 125 years, sustainability has been an integral part of Roche's business. As a science-driven company, our greatest contribution to society is developing innovative medicines and diagnostics that help people live healthier lives. Roche is committed to the Science-Based Targets Initiative and the Sustainable Markets Initiative to achieve net zero by 2045. Genentech in the United States is a wholly owned member of the Roche Group. Roche is the majority shareholder in Chugai Pharmaceutical in Japan, and there's the website if you want to go see it. And all trademarks used or mentioned in this release are protected by law. Now, a lot of that was, boilerplate, but I just thought it was good to put in here because we don't really know a lot about some of these pharmaceutical companies, even though we recognize their names. This gave us a little bit of historical background on the company, and I think it's worth noting, even though, it's a pharmaceutical company and they're out to make money. Let's not kid ourselves. Wow, okay, so finally, something that sounds like it's actually promising enough that it may end up in the clinic after all, that our neurologist may end up being able to prescribe it. By the way, Ocrevus is also produced by Roche, so they're actually making a competitive drug against themselves. I find that kind of interesting. Maybe they're just wanting to cover all the bases, I don't know. But I'll give them credit. I think it's pretty good that they're doing that. At any rate, you need to talk to your neurologist. If this looks interesting to you, if this is something that you think that once it's ready for prime time, you want to be in on it, talk to your team, talk to your neurologist, make sure they're aware that this is coming. I think they probably are, but just in case they're not, and let them know that you are very interested in knowing whether you would be a good candidate for it, because it does sound really promising compared to what we've been hearing from other clinical trials about other medications, that they maybe met their endpoint, but not in any kind of overwhelmingly great way, or they didn't meet their endpoint, or whatever. This one did, and that's pretty neat. I love the results that they seem to be getting. I don't know if it's the thing that we're looking for or not, but it's closer than anything else has been for a while. And I have been watching BTK inhibitors with great interest because I've been feeling like maybe that was going to be the key to unlocking some of these intractable problems that we deal with multiple sclerosis and disease progression in particular. Let's just keep on top of this one. And again, in the meantime, we have got to take really good care of ourselves because we want to be ready to take advantage of this when it finally does hit the clinic and our neurologist can prescribe it. But that's all I have for you today. Until I see you again in my next video.